Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. I have for you today a review of Grady Hendrix' newest book, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, which I literally just finished like 30 seconds ago. But I am returning. This is a book from the library, and I'm returning it tomorrow. So I wanted to get this review up lickety-split while it's fresh in my memory, or as fresh as it can be. This was a bit of a longer one. It was 500 pages? No, 482. Almost 500 pages. But spoiler alert, I loved it. I loved it. Such a great redemption from his last one, How to Sell a Haunted House, which I did not love. I think I gave it 2 stars. 2 very generous stars. I love Grady Hendrix. I love his writing, but that book was just, if you're going to give me a haunted house story, give me a haunted house story. Don't give me lame puppets who aren't scary and stupid, okay? Anyway, he really redeemed himself. In my book groups online, I'm like in quite a few book groups, like on Facebook and stuff. I've been hearing so much praise for this book. Well, it was loud. Hearing nothing but great things. My sister read it. She loved it. Was so excited for me to read it. And then I saw one review online on BookTube, and she hated it. Maybe hate's a strong word. She gave it like 2 stars, I think. But she is like a 22, 23-year-old girl, and woman. She's a woman. And, you know, like no kids, and was, which this is about unwed teenage girls who are pregnant and have to go to like a home for unwed pregnant girls, teenage girls. And so I think that that definitely factors in. And if you're going into this book looking for a horror story about witches, I think you may be a little disappointed. And like that's valid. Like her being disappointed in the fact that it wasn't like a horror story and it was a little more slow paced. That's valid. But to say it's a bad book, I'm so sorry. I don't think you can say that. This book was so brilliant. The horror in this book is the way that the women, these girls, were treated. And the way that women are still treated today. Hello. Yeah. The horror is reality, is real life situations. But there is, of course, horror in this book. There's great body horror, which you guys know I love, is like my favorite kind of horror. But it's definitely a slower pace. It's definitely, like she said, it's like kind of like a historical fiction. I agree. So yeah, if you're going into this thinking it's going to be some fast-paced, thriller horror, you might be disappointed. I also would say that this is very much less his usual like campy kind of more, I don't want to say like comedic writing style. I definitely think it was less of that. This was way more of a serious topic and just more of a serious book in general, I think, because of the subject matter. So yeah, this is about these girls that get sent to a home in Florida for unwed teenage girls, pregnant girls. So yeah, this is about girls who are unwed teenage girls who find themselves pregnant and get sent to this home, because that is literally the worst possible thing you can do as a woman, is find yourself pregnant, and it is all the woman's fault, and the men obviously have nothing to do with this situation, and they don't get any of the blame, and they just get to live their life, and I'm bitter Betty about it. Yeah, so this takes place in 1970, I believe, so before Roe v. Wade. Yeah, so between, I believe Grady said at the end of his book in the acknowledgments, which you should read, between like 1945 and 1973, before Roe v. Wade, these houses for like pregnant teens, unwed mothers, were that's what you did when you found yourself in these situations. You would send the girls to these homes, and it's very much like tied into religion as well, which this home was too. So yeah, and our main character is Neva, I believe that's how you pronounce it, or Fern, because when you get to the home, you do not give out your real name. What would you call her? Like headmistress? What would you call her? The owner, the whatever, gives you a name. Yeah, so it's just about all of these girls at this home and the way that they get treated and the mistreatment of them. And it's absolutely heartbreaking what they have to go through. Just the first chapter of her father driving her to this home. She has no idea where she's going. She has no idea. She's 15 years old, getting taken from her home and her life somewhere totally new, not going to see her family for months, pregnant with a child. Like, she does not know what to expect in that regard. She's being completely shunned by her family. Her family hates her. Like, her father says that she wished she'd never been born. Like, this is a disgrace on her family. Like, blah, blah, blah. Of course, the father of the child, like, nothing happens to him, of course. It's all on the woman. And they just make her feel absolutely awful. And then she just gets thrown into this home with all these other pregnant girls who are just made to feel like the scum of the earth. And yeah, they get put to work, basically. It's just so sad. And then, okay, it's Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. So I was thinking, I don't read the synopsis. I'm thinking like, okay, is it like a home just for witches who are pregnant? Like, how is that gonna factor in? And I'm not gonna give it away, but it's not like that. The Witchcraft, the way that Grady wrote it into the story was so clever, and I really loved the way that he did it and the way that it weaved into the story. He did it really well. It worked really well. I loved the two Black women in the story that worked at the home, Miriam and Hagar. They just were so vital to the story, and for the time period, I don't know, it just worked really well, and they were two of my favorite. Hagar was one of my favorite characters, like the way that I was bawling at the end of this book. Like, literally just got done crying. The ending was so fantastic. But yeah, it just, the absolute atrocities that these girls have to go through, and they have no say what happens to them when they give birth, what happens to their babies. These babies are just being ripped from them, and of course they cannot keep them. And if they want to keep them, they get guilted into not keeping them, of course, because how are you gonna raise a baby? Like, don't do that to your baby. You can't give them a life. What do you think they're, So just guilting them into that and making them feel like what they did is the worst possible thing you could ever do in life. Oh, it's just so sad how they talked to these girls. One of the girls was, I think, 13. Oh my gosh. Just the way these grown adults talked to them and made them feel just absolutely heartbreaking. And the birthing scenes were really heartbreaking as well. Just so lonely. Like, I can't imagine being 15 years old and having to go through that by yourself. But there is horror in this book. There is definitely horror. There's, like I said, great body horror. There is some gore and some great horror scenes. So it's not all just, dialogue and like historical fiction type, but it is a lot of that. So go in knowing that this is going to be a lot of just storyline and a lot about the girls being in the home and their struggles and their stories and their day-to-day life and what they're going through and how they are trying to deal with their situations, which are very heartbreaking. How some of the girls became pregnant. Yeah, so it's a lot of that. She's a chunky one, like I said, almost 500 pages. So yeah, if you're looking for a really fast pace, and I'm not saying it's super slow, like you're trudging through it, but it is a lot of just like storyline. Like it's not like super fast paced. But I thought it was so fantastic, and like I said, he really redeemed himself from How to Sell a Haunted House, which I just absolutely did not love. Did not love. But it really felt like it was his writing, like this was Grady, but also kind of felt like I was reading a different author. I really didn't feel that like campiness and that like silliness. This was definitely more of like a more serious take. His acknowledgments at the end, he's like, I know I have no business as like a childless man, you know, writing about pregnant folks. Like, but it's amazing. Like, it's amazing to me that a childless man wrote this, because I felt, as a woman who has had a child, like I felt all of this like so deeply and really like put myself in their shoes. And I cannot believe a man wrote this. Like I said in one of my last videos, like I would love to meet him and Nat Cassidy and just be like, how do you write women so well? They are just like really dialed into their feminine side or something. I don't know, but they just get women. Oh my gosh, you guys, the ending was so good. It was so good. I loved it. The characters in this were so memorable. And Tanana Review said it was a nail biter, which I do agree that there was definitely like a lot of tension. I don't think it was necessarily like oh my gosh, I need to like what's gonna happen next, but there was a lot of tension that gets built up, I will say that. But you do have a page turner that will keep you up until 1 a.m. Yes, I do think there's a lot of tension. I don't think it's necessarily like fast paced, but I do think that it is a lot of tension for sure. Morally complex and haunting, a phenomenal read for witches everywhere. Yeah, I loved the witch storyline of this as well. I thought it was so clever. Yeah, that's all I kind of want to say about it. I don't want to give any spoilers as far as like the witchcraft part of it or anymore. I just think people should know that the real like horror aspect of this is how these girls were treated and the horrors of girls and women back then and what they had to go through. And honestly, of course, what we're still going through today. Because things aren't great, folks. Things aren't great. But that is the real horror of the book. And if you can't see that, then I'm sorry. You kind of missed the point of the book. But I do understand if it just wasn't for you. And I also understand if maybe you're not a mother, that this maybe didn't resonate with you as much. I get that as well. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. It was a 5 out of 5 star for me. Hands down, for sure. Absolutely loved it. Grady, you have redeemed yourself. Absolutely. Plus, the cover. Can we talk about the cover? It is so good. The lava lamp is a part of not like a huge part of the story, but it's in the story. I just loved it. I'm so happy that I liked it. I was really worried it was going to be another How to Sell a Haunted House, but he did great. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have read this or if you plan on it, if you are a Grady fan. I still have a few of his backlog to read. I have Bad Astronauts. I own that one. And then there's he has like a couple nonfiction, like what's that? He wrote a book about horror movies or something, horror books or something. And I think I have another one of his to read. I can't remember. But yeah, I just love him and his writing, except for, you know what. But anyway, I won't hate on that book anymore. But yeah, let me know if you guys have read it or if you plan to. I really recommend it. If, like I said, if you're looking for like horror all the way and maybe not so much historical fiction, and it might not be for you, but I still think you should give it a try. I don't know. It's heartbreaking and wonderful, and I loved it. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.